So there's obviously been a lot of discussion around the upcoming 2020 election. I understand that there's a lot of speculation around it, and the left says there's no way to lose to Trump. Of course, the right is sold that there's no way the president will lose. But in the end, there's still one obvious question that's lingering long before we ever get to this 2020 election. Just who will save the Democrats? I'm your host, Jared Dyson, and this is the Closet Conservative Podcast. So we've had some topics over on our website that we've talked about. We've talked about the Democratic primary, the Democratic debates, and just some other general topics this week. Now, we are not a liberal-focused podcast or website, but it is important as a conservative to pay attention as we approach 2020 to that specific side of events. There are several pieces that fit into the big question that I proposed in the opening. Who's going to save the Democrats? So let's start by looking at the race in general. So recent polls have Elizabeth Warren as the frontrunner. I've talked about how she's faced a lot more criticism ahead of the debate this week. And, it's tough to be a frontrunner in a race, and I was interested to see how she handled the debate. As she faced the attacks, she continued to dodge questions. She seemed to struggle in the debate. Many in the mainstream media commented about how they do not feel she performed well. So if she's the frontrunner, does this place Democrats in a strong position to battle Trump? Not really. In a recent opinion piece at Fox News, Mark Thiessen commented on how Warren continues to tell people that the economy is not working for them. Meanwhile, the economy is the strongest it's been in years. Unemployment is at 50-year lows. Minority employment is low. So Democrats really cannot feel confident in Warren as she continues to propose this lie that the economy is just not working for the average American. Her closest rival, Joe Biden, he performed as he always does. He seems to do well in the beginning of the debate. As he makes his comments, he has a sharp comment or two in each statement, but it's like he gets lost in his words. Biden has not performed strong in any single debate of the cycle. And his recent issues are showing in the fundraising because he had one of the worst quarters he's had. No doubt this shows that the best is probably already behind Joe Biden. And then there's Bernie Sanders. He's in the exact opposite position of Biden. He has the money. He's raised a significant amount of funds, yet he has lost so much of his base to Warren as he's faced these hard issues and faced the constant backlash and the attacks from Warren. While, of course, I understand she's maybe not attacking him directly, but she is attacking him because she's taking a different stance and how she's proposing these different plans that they are proposing as socialists. Bernie has the cash to make a move, but the base does not align with him or Warren as a lead candidate. So this obviously brings us to Pete Buttigieg. Now, I personally feel that Pete Buttigieg may be the dark horse in the race. He's a well-spoken, young, energetic candidate that many will like in a general election. You cannot let his words fool you, however. He is just as radical as these other candidates we've talked about. Buttigieg is going to struggle with some of the statements he's made about Christianity and other social issues. Even with his struggles, he may surprise and win a primary or two. So you can't completely count out Pete Buttigieg, but I still don't think in the end he's going to be the Democratic candidate. Now, other sites may include Kamala Harris as a top-tier candidate, but I'm just going to be honest, I don't see that anymore. I think Kamala Harris had a really good run, but most likely she's a VP candidate or a candidate for a cabinet position if a Democrat were to win the White House. I truly believe that of all the candidates that are in the race right now, there's really a top four that have the best shot at winning the primary. So now with all of that said, can Democrats really feel confident in any of these candidates? And I'll be honest, I don't think Democrats are excited, and I really don't think they believe that any of these candidates can actually compete with President Trump. In an article earlier this week, I wrote about how recent polls show some good things for Trump. The recent Emerson poll, Trump was leading all the Democratic candidates except for Bernie Sanders, who he trailed by 2 points. Now, I know if you've looked at this poll, you'll be the first one to tell me, but Jared, that was in Iowa. That was not a national poll. True. Iowa is a state that has only voted for a Republican candidate twice since the Reagan administration. It voted Republican for the second term of George W. Bush, and it voted Republican for Trump. In that same Emerson poll, it said that the number one concern for voters in 2020 was the economy. Yes, that's that same economy that Elizabeth Warren and Bernie Sanders and all of the other Democrat candidates are saying is not working for the average American. You remember, this is the economy that they're trying to say that we need to give away free stuff. Free education, free health care. Even Andrew Yang is proposing a free dividend to give people free money every year. The Democrats are trying to say the economy's not good, but the economy's very good under Trump. The economy is where Trump polls the strongest if you look at the polls overall. If this is where the current slate of Democrats are focusing and basing their campaigns on, the Democratic Party is really struggling and it needs some help. So who saves the Democratic Party? I read another article recently where several individuals on the left were trying to urge for Michelle Obama to get in the race. Now, polls suggest that if Obama were to enter the race, she would immediately be the front runner for the Democrats. She remains extremely popular across all of the world and especially with Democrats. So there's certainly some advantages to Michelle Obama. She's not made a lot of policy statements in the past, so she doesn't have the past to haunt her as many of these candidates may have. But I don't think the focus is on Michelle Obama here. Now, I could be wrong and she may jump into the race, but I really don't think this is the race that she wants to be in. I would expect that if she were to run for office, it would be in the next election cycle, or possibly even for a Senate race. She's definitely going to be outspoken. She's definitely going to campaign for this person who wins the nomination, but she's continued to maintain that stance that she's not interested in running, and there's been no indications that she may go back on this. I've also heard the suggestion of Rahm Emanuel as another potential candidate. Now, if you remember, Emanuel was the former White House Chief of Staff under President Obama. He was a former mayor of Chicago. So he has the clout of Democrats and has the confidence in the party, and it could be another candidate coming out of the prior Obama administration to watch. While I understand that there may be potential in this candidate, I also do not see Rahm Emanuel jumping into this race. I do not see him trying to run against Biden, as I believe the Obama administration remains faithful to Biden, even though he will not come out and support Biden at this time. So I continue to think about who else might jump into this race and save the Democrats. I mean, they really need help. We're getting late into the year and they're going to need someone to get in very soon. As of late, the more I think on it, I really believe Hillary Clinton could get into this race very soon. Now, I actually wrote about this on the website several months ago, that I believe Hillary Clinton could still get in this race. And apparently I'm not alone. I saw that Ben Shapiro actually stated earlier this week, on Thursday in fact, that Hillary Clinton should get into the race. He suggested that if she were to get into the race, she would steal the nomination. And I would agree. I think if Hillary Clinton jumps into this race, she immediately becomes the front runner, and she most likely wins the nomination again. Hillary could be viewed as the savior of the Democratic Party as she jumps in and gives Trump a run for his money. So will Hillary enter the race? Well, initially she said no. But she's given some reason to suspect she may lately. She told President Trump on Twitter not to tempt her about getting into the race. She made statements to others in interviews that if she were to enter the race, she knew she could beat President Trump again, and called President Trump an illegitimate president. So the thought is there that she could join the race and she's confident she could win. But there was some news on Friday that came out that Clinton suggested that Russia wants Tulsi Gabbard as a third-party candidate. Sure, Gabbard struck back and she called Clinton several names and seemed to downplay the thought of being a third-party candidate. Now, I don't imagine Gabbard as a third-party candidate, but I do find Clinton's statements interesting. Could this be to prevent someone from naming Gabbard as a potential running mate before Clinton jumps in the race? I mean, if you recall the Democratic debate earlier this week, Tulsi Gabbard did seem to be the only Democrat on stage that had normal ideas. So we know that Clinton already knows that she can defeat Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren, because Elizabeth Warren is just another copy of Bernie Sanders. The only difference is one is male and one is female. The only candidate that the Democrats could rig in front of Warren or Sanders right now is Buttigieg because of the special interest card in his homosexuality. So where do the Democrats go? Well, it seems like the answer to this may be Hillary Clinton. Obviously, she has clout with the independents. She has a strong base and strong backing of the main part of the Democratic primary. And if she could somehow rally these progressives, it could push the Democrats across this line that's needed to give President Trump a challenge in the 2020 election. In regards to Clinton getting into the race, I highly doubt it, but I do have a high index of suspicion. If Democrats do not convince another candidate to get into the race, they are fielding one of the weakest groups of candidates they have in a long time, no matter who the eventual nominee is. I have also heard the suggestion that Democrats could know that they would be losing to President Trump no matter what. So maybe they are willing to lose the 2020 election in an effort to stall Trump's agenda and work towards a 2024 election victory. I mean, stalling Trump's agenda has been their tactic for months, and it seems to be working to appeal to their base. If the base is not excited about the current slate of candidates, perhaps giving up on the 2020 election makes sense. Maybe they could get the base to get excited behind a young, youthful candidate who we do not know right now, like Barack Obama was. There's also one more interesting thought in regards to waiting until 2024. If you wait until 2024, it puts other leaders in the party into more prominent roles, or the ability to hold more prominent roles. What do I mean? Well, if you think about this, Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez will be 35 years old on Election Day in 2024. She actually turns 35 in October. So this makes AOC eligible to be on the ticket. It certainly gives you cause to think about the importance of this 2020 election and thinking into 2024, doesn't it?
This is the Closet Conservative Podcast. All material copyright The Closet Conservative. Music courtesy of Greg Shields Music. Remember to subscribe to our podcast to receive all the latest episodes. We can also be found online at closetconservative.net or on Facebook and Twitter.